Call to order the regular meeting of the Rio Dell City Council. Roll call, please.
Mayor Barnes.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Wilson.
Here.
Councilmember Woodall. Here.
And we are returning from closed session and there is nothing to report out. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Where is it? Oh. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the next regular agenda for consideration, if the council directs, unless a finding is made by at least 2/3 of the council that the item came up after the agenda was posted and is of an urgency nature requiring immediate action. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes. You know, like to say anything? Any hands raised? Any emails? And I will close public presentations and move on to consent calendar. Would anyone like to pull an item from the consent calendar?
Item number 1.
Anyone in the audience? Any hands raised? Any emails pulling any items? No. Then I will ask for a motion to approve items 2 through 4. I said move it down. You have a motion, is there a second? Second. A motion and a second, please vote. Motion carries.
Buttons are reversed.
Somebody's playing a trick.
Oh, there.
Wow.
Mine was back.
Now I'm not even touching it.
Aye. Aye, that's right.
Aye.
All in favor, aye. Count for aye. Aye. Yeah, my notes. Mayor Pro Tem, item 1.
Thank you, Mayor Barnes. I was absent from the meeting and we abstained from the vote.
Thank you. So is there a motion for to approve item 1?
So that's.
We have a motion, is there a second? Second. Please vote on item 1. Try that again.
Did that?
Okay, motion carries, I'm pretty sure it's done.
Yes.
Yes, all right, there it is. 4-0. I know, it's interesting. Because my no comes up yes, my yes, yeah, that's what people. Yeah, that's weird. We will move on to reports and staff communications, page 43 in our package. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Barnes, members of the council. For the City Hall energy projects, we are essentially completed on that project. If the council takes a walk on the back side of the building here, you will see that there are 3 new Tesla battery power walls that have been installed. So those replace the old Sunvault system that we could not get PG&E's authorization to operate. And so in total, we have over 20 kW in solar production here at City Hall. We have a backup generator fueled by natural gas and the energy storage system. So I don't know if they're anyways, we're looking forward to not having any more power outages at City Hall. And I think that project has gone well, although it's a little bit over the initial time estimates to do the project. Redwood Coast Energy in another item, Redwood Coast Energy Authority has provided the city with multiple energy efficiency kits and LED light bulbs. Residents can claim a free light bulb at City Hall by bringing in and disposing of an older style incandescent bulb. So additionally, residents can receive a free efficiency kit that includes additional LED light bulbs, water saving technology, and some other efficiency items for the home. That will help reduce folks' bills overall, whether it's PG&E, water, or energy usage. So residents are being encouraged, but they're not required to also light up the night. by using the sufficient outdoor lighting at night to help deter crime and to identify crime when it is occurring. So we want to encourage folks to use their porch lights at night and preferably using one of these LED technologies that takes 100-watt bulb and still produces the same amount of light with using only 15 watts. With that, I will go ahead and return it to the mayor to see if there's any questions or comments to staff.
Thank you, and thank staff for the Tesla and the energy backup that you've gotten through and completed, and I mean, it's exciting and well done. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor Lawrence. I have several questions. Start off with Water Street Superintendent Jensen. I noticed we had several leaking pipes. Is there a common thread in the water lines that are leaking?
Track conditions, balance tracking, and just various pipes that we have are beyond its useful life that we're waiting for that CIP to finish up so we can start replacing some stuff.
And second question, I was up at Old Ranch Road today. I noticed there's a mode. Did we do that?
Yes, we did.
And my third item is for several years now, we've been getting a report for law enforcement activity at the 355 Center. And for myself, I guess I don't need to see that. And I don't know if the police department needs to waste their resources writing that down for us. There was a desire to have that in when the Danville project was finished. But I think personally, I think the need for it has lapsed in time. If there's a consensus with the council to delete it, maybe we can get the police department to remove that or not add it.
I'm fine with that. No problem.
I just have a question. Do you like, for just a small area like that we have more police calls for that certain area than?
Yes. Sure, answer is yes.
That's all I have there.
Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
I like seeing it, but that's fine.
Yeah, I got a quick, so what did we decide on the 355?
Well, it was a request for a consensus to delete it. So I mean, I was okay with that.
I don't have a problem with it one way or the other, I just. And you did say there's a lot of calls to it.
Yes, for that particular place, yes, there's, if you look at the sheet, it shows you exactly what those calls are. And you can see that most of them have a criminal element to it. And so I think that's why that's on there, because it shows a concentration of criminal activity in that area.
I'm fine with it in there. And I'm fine with this one. I had a question for the city manager on the website. And our notification, I noticed that we got. Generally on Friday, we would get like an agenda. It wasn't the detailed packet, but we would get an agenda on Friday. So it came in this morning. I like getting that on Friday so they at least read through it. I also like getting the packet online. I can read through it online and then come down and get it when I got it, you know, but is that, how far are we from being able to do that?
So right now, the new site is scheduled to come online in the early part of October. And I don't know, Karen, you have something to add about the agenda?
No, I did email them on Friday,
Okay,
so I don't know if it was, we've kind of had some email problems up here, so I don't know if they were delayed, but I did send them, I don't ever read Friday until they're out. So they were emailed Friday.
You said that Friday, but we didn't get it till Monday, though.
Sounds like it, yeah, no, I did it Friday.
It wasn't your fault, it was, I'm not
Yes.
trying to find a fault.
Yeah. Oh, no, I did mail them on Friday, or email them on Friday.
Normally.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I would just,
Mine was the same way.
Did you have the same problem? Yeah.
yeah, and I would add that because the security of the city's main website has been compromised, the bill pay is fine. But the security has been compromised, and so what I think is happening is some of these different email providers have flagged it because we have the same web address as on our email. And so they flagged it. So once we get it off of the current servers onto the new ones, hopefully the email will return to
All right,
full functionality.
that's all I have.
Yeah, and chief, is it? Well, I don't really mind one way or the other, but if, you know, any of the council member wants to see it, then it seems like it should stay on there, so is that a burden?
No, it's not.
I go through it all the time.
Well. Yeah. I would fortunately, and because, you know, I mean, it's interesting, I don't particularly need to see it, but I support it if you want to see it. And it's not a burden to the chief or the police department and.
I would just add that, you know, if we had a concentration of criminal activity like this at a different area, that would also be in there. And so you don't, so that's kind of why. That's it.
You can say your way, yeah. All it takes is one of us to want to look at it. Right, yeah, as long as it's not burden.
And personally, I'd like to know where the hospital. That's, you know, it's but I want to go.
Yeah.
That's why.
Are there any questions? From the public? No, are there any hands raised, any email? Then I will close this item. And move on to. Special presentation. Presentation by Caltrans on replacement and modification of northbound US 101 bridge. Known as the Paul E. Mudgett Bridge, page 48 in our packet. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the council. So the council has previously received an update on this particular project, but there is some new information to share with the council. And so we have Marie Brady from Caltrans on the line via Zoom to help provide an update to the council. So Marie, we should be able to pull up your visual presentation if you want to direct us
Sure.
on slide, and then we're ready to.
Ready to roll? Okay. I'm just going to let you, here's Caltrans, and I'm hoping that you guys can see, let's see what you guys have. Make sure I've got this situated. So what can you guys see in your, okay, right now, cool. So we can get the first slide just in our introduction. And then I just want to thank you for the city council for allowing me to present an update. My name is Marie Brady. I am the project manager for this contract. And you can move to the next slide. That would be helpful. Thank you. And so, like I said, there's an opportunity. I can take back questions to our team at the end of my short presentation. And we can keep going. Sorry, the next slide, please. So what happened is that here it is. That's our team right now. And Dan Stiles is a project engineer. We have a structures engineer, and this has been a project that's been going on for a number of years. You can move ahead. Thank you. Next slide. You keep going. Sorry, there's a lot of fluff in it. So as we know, I just want to basically come back and say part of it, it's a partial replacement and a partial seismic retrofit. Based on our last cost in July of 2022, we are at $62 million as far as the construction cost for this partial replacement and partial retrofit. So you can keep going. Thank you. And the reason why I asked Kyle if you wanted to have me do a little short update is because right now I'm able to share where we are in the project development process. beginning in October, we are going to be circulating the draft environmental document for public comment. So that should be, hopefully we'll have a public meeting probably towards the beginning of November of this year. But I also want to let what studies we've been doing. We're kind of wrapping those up in our mitigation strategies, as well as I'd like to share with the city council, which I think is more of interest to you, is probably what our proposed aesthetic barrier treatment is. So if you want to keep moving with the slide, I appreciate that. To the next slide. And again, keep going to the next slide. Sorry about that. So as you can see, this is where we're replacing the bridge. That's what we're proposing. And we're doing still geotechnical studies on that for the borings. And keep going to the next part. And this is what we're providing. We're still working with this, which is the conceptual design, which is, as you can see, it looks like a cast in place box girder on the full replacement. And then we're doing a retrofit strategy. We're doing advanced design at this point because we are going into the river part of the way in October for drilling. And so we're trying to get our studies as far as the substructure is concerned. I want to really personally thank our team, wants to thank the city of Rio Dell for being good partners and helping us with the relocation strategies as far as utilities. And also one of the things that Kyle pointed out to me was that in the landscape air time at the end of the project, when we're going to meet with the city of Rio Dell at that end of the project, we are going to partner with landscape architecture and have the city of Rio Dell staff work with our landscape architect in developing plantings and landscaping that is acceptable to the city of Rio Dell. So I thought that would be great. And we got that commitment from our landscape folks, and we're looking forward to meeting with you guys during that phase. So if you can move to the next slide. Thank you. And you can go, there's a retrofit portion, which I've presented before. You can keep going. Thank you so much. So here is the inside barrier. As you can see, this is what our landscape architect has come up. It's a nature scene that reflects the Eel River. There is the slight wave that's going to be into the rail. And we have a bicycle rail since this is part of the Pacific Coast Bike Route. It's a very important network on our multimodal system. As you can see, looks like there's salmon that's kind of jumping along. So that's what's going to look like when we're actually driving, on the bridge, either north or northbound or southbound. So if you can move the next slide. This is going to be the aesthetic treatment as if you're looking from the river or from the outside. So it's kind of repeating that same natural theme, and it's going to be out of reinforced concrete. I think that's kind of probably what the city council is most interested in. I'd be more than happy to, I think there's a packet that was sent out. If you'd like to, review it and kind of marinate on it a little bit and let us know what you think about it. This would be a great time for us to know what your opinion is. So I do appreciate this. So if you can go to the next slide, I just want to emphasize that we're going to hopefully start construction in the spring of 2026. What we're going to do at the end of the environmental phase is actually seek funding to fund the rest of the work and also for the construction. So I'm working with our programming folks in headquarters in Sacramento to try to make sure that we are going to move forward with this project. So I'm pretty excited about this. It's going to take 3 years to construct this project. And what's going to happen as far as the traveling public, including yourselves who's going back and forth on US 101, is that we plan to detour traffic on the parallel structure. So that's the one right next to it for the duration of the project until we get the construction project built and ready for release to the public safely. If you can move on to the next slide. I hope I'm not going too fast. This is the environmental portion. This is what the meat and potatoes of what we're doing right now. And you can keep moving on. Thank you so much. I'm not used to having this. And I always like to use this graphic because if you can see where the red arrow is, we're at the circulate. It helps me, like we're on this like road. And right now we're about to ready to draft the environmental document. So we've been working with the other regulatory agencies as far as looking at the non-significant impacts to this project. We're working with NOAA, Fish and Game, and all these different folks. And they've been meeting out. So if you see people down in the river bar, that's us meeting with those folks to make sure that we are building an environmentally friendly project as best we can. So I like to use this graphic because it kind of we're going to be doing environmental processes all the way through construction. We have environmental monitors, which is important because we want to keep the eel River and the riverine environment keep going and safe and healthy for fish. So if you want to please keep going. Thank you so much for the next one. Basically, this is a initial study mitigating neg deck. So you'll be seeing that coming on the street. We have a website that's going to be having all this information, and you can send questions to anytime. It's categorical exclusion if you're interested in the federal side of things, and you can keep going. Thank you for the next slide. And these are just a few of the studies that we're actually finishing up that were required by law to do. So as you can see, it goes from greenhouse gas emissions, cultural resources. We're actually doing a hydroacoustic assessment to see how to make sure what the pile driving is going to be effects on the local river environment as far as fish is concerned. So we're going through all that analysis as we speak, and as well as property surveys, has waste, all that stuff, floodplain analysis, all the rest of that. So there's a lot that's going on, and we're still kind of in the process, but I wanted to say we wanted to make sure that we will come back as an agency as much as possible, as much as you want to hear from us. We're more than willing to share the information that we are studying and moving forward. We'd like to be partners with you in this process. And if you can move on to the next slide. And that's me. This is my email address. This is my phone. I'm available all day. If you want to talk to me on a Saturday, that's fine. I'm more than willing to answer questions or take questions. And if you have concerns, I will make myself available to the city council and city Rio Dell staff as needed. I just want to make sure, we've had, I think, a really good working relationship thus far on this part of the project. And I'd like to continue that on. And if you guys have any questions either now, if I might not be able to answer it, I can always go back and ask my team and we'll get the answers for you. So that's pretty much all I have to share today. And thank you for allowing me to share this information with you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Absolutely. I will bring questions to the council. Councilmember Carter.
Thank you. Good presentation. My biggest thing was the bike lane, but it sounds like we are going to have a bike lane.
Yes.
Wonderful. I've always thought that there should maybe be a sign at that turn that's like a max speed limit sign or something. I don't know if that has anything to do with the bridge, but if we're already working on it, I see people drive crazy and that turn sneaks up on them and they slam on the brakes, and I just tossing it out there that maybe we look at doing something with that turn, or at least putting a sign to slow down.
I think at this point, I think we are looking at some realignment of that curve that you're talking about. So there's going to be a kind of a wall that's going to be going there to help support that, to make it safer. I will be more than happy to share those plans with you, what we have. But I know that is something we do an extensive collision analysis, and we talk to people. This is the kind of feedback we want to hear. But yet we are going to do a realignment to actually hopefully improve that curve, so that people won't speed as much. So, but I'll look.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilmember Woodall.
So I was just wondering, you'll be taking down the bridge probably during the summer, because you wouldn't do it during the winter. You will be concerned about, like, there's steel, the summer
Yes.
runner steel head, and
Yes.
you'll be aware of that, and there'll be a
Yes.
way to handle it.
Absolutely. That's we want to make sure that we are not only friendly to our fellow city, city of Rio Dell, but also to the environment down there too. So there's a lot of studies. We have really good people working with California Fish and Game, basically NIMFS, National Marine Fisheries Service. So we've been doing lots of consultation with them to make sure that we are not going to mess up the fish. I mean, that's one of the options we were looking at, was actually removing part of that structure down that fell down during one of the floods. And we're looking to that's actually going to make the geomorphology a little bit worse. So we're kind of trying to work out, outside the box to make sure that we keep our environment pristine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Wilson.
You know, the only question or comment is, excuse me.
Mhm.
Is it a 3-year construction process? So, is that correct?
3-year construction process, yes.
So we'll be using the other bridge for 3 years, obviously.
Yeah,
There's no route to do it.
yeah, we're gonna reroute on the other structure, so. We're doing that kind of analysis on, that's been analyzed as far as impacts is concerned for traffic.
Is that a pretty realistic number of estimation of time?
Yes, that's 3 years it includes all the environment, we have to be out of the river by October 15th. All those kind of like limitations, those were all built into the structure. So yeah, the 3 years is, we're pretty certain on that one.
But the 3 years starts in 26, not.
Correct. So probably end of 29.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes. It looks like you're going to be replacing some of the piers that are in the river,
Yes,
and I assume that the spans are going to be very similar in the new bridge to what they were in the old bridge.
as far as the vents or the columns you're talking about.
Length of span.
Oh, the spans. I'd have to, I believe they're asking us to see if we can remove it. That's still all kind of, that's what I understand. So, yes, it'll be similar, not more.
Looking at the typical section for the bridge cross section, it resembles a great deal of bridges on the south end of Rio Dell, which were constructed 49 years ago.
Yes.
Just at the same time that the southbound bridge on the north end of town was constructed. The ones at the south end of town were used technology called segmental construction.
Yes.
And the typical section of the bridge looks very similar to the segmental construction that was used 50 years ago at the south end of town. Anyway, just an observation.
That's actually pretty good. Yeah, you're right. It looks like a segmental section. I'm not sure. I don't think we're going to be using that technology for this particular structure as far as the replacement. But yeah, I've seen segmental like at down at Confusion Hill. That was amazing. So yeah, it's for sure.
I have any further questions. I'll either email you or call Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes.
Thank you. Thank you, I think.
Thank you.
Third, are you still at issue going?
And I think she's still there.
Oh, okay. Are there any hands raised or emails? Public have any questions? City manager?
Yeah, I would just like to thank Marie for all the communication. I think, in the distant past, there were some issues with Caltrans. It's a very large agency, very large bureaucracy. And so I want to again thank Marie for being really proactive in the communication, giving us and the council an opportunity to be briefed on the project. And we just really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Anytime. I'm more than happy to answer your questions. We're partners. So thank you so much for allowing me to present tonight.
Thank you very much for being here, zooming in, and we look forward to your next time you're gonna give us an update. We appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah. Discussion on Pacific gas and electric capacity issue, page 68 in our packet. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Garnes, members of the council. Attached to your packet is the council authorized the mayor to issue a letter to the California Public Utilities Commission. Again, back on May 3rd, and then the response from the California Public Utilities Commission to the council authorized letter. I wanted to just kind of provide a verbal update to the council as this issue has become pretty heated over just the past week or two. And has far reaching implications for this area. So I just want to roll the clock back to about 2017. When we were talking about business development at the Humboldt Rio Dell Business Park, formerly the old Eel River Sawmill site. And as the council will recall, that site had largely been defunct with probably literally no activity occurring on it since about 2005 with the closure of the original Eel River sawmills. Following in 2017, we had some new ordinances related to cannabis. We had interested developers in the site. And so the city held a series of stakeholder meetings, both with business developers, including people like Dennis Wendt and others, along with Pacific Gas and Electric, our friends at Caltrans, and others, to discuss future development at the site. So in those conversations, we tried to highlight all of the challenges at the business park. And some of the big challenges were water distribution, fire suppression, drainage, and the highway interface. And at the time, there were really very few concerns raised from representatives from Pacific Gas and Electric. And certainly not ones that raised red flags for development at the business park. We were mostly focused on the highway interface. That particular issue appears to have been resolved as Caltrans is working to program in some of the modifications for safety improvements in that particular corridor. Subsequently, some of the timelines we were given initially in 2018 were 3 years to get power delivered. And unfortunately, there really hadn't been any clarification beyond that up until last week on the timelines for these projects. So they kept getting, kind of pushed back. And so there were, numerous red flags, but we always thought that they were kind of specific to the business park and that specific section of the grid. Our developers out there who have spent money developing plans to identify, electrical load needs and whatnot, have been continuing to contact the city. We have been continuing to contact various PG&E representatives to try to get the ball rolling and get more specifics out of the Energy Authority. So back on May 3rd of this year, so 2022, May 3rd, the council authorized the mayor to send a letter to the California Public Utilities Commission, CPUC. From there, I want to make sure that the mayor gets recognition for this because she, took the letter and was able to network with the staff there at the CPUC to get us a series of meetings and their attention. So it went beyond just a letter. I do want to make sure that the mayor is recognized for that. So subsequent to the May 3rd letter, we did have a series of meetings and a whole chain of emails back and forth with CPUC staff regarding the situation, got their advice on how to proceed, and then began a long process of trying to schedule a meeting where all the city staff that needed to be there could be there, all of the CPUC staff, and all of the PG&E staff. And so we were able to finally hold that meeting for an hour on September 15th, 2022. So we had a meeting not just with PG&E, but several representatives from the California Public Utilities Commission. So some of the information that was provided is that PG&E has 10 applicants in the queue for power delivery services that can possibly be powered. And their clarification later in the meeting was about 2 to 4 of them for sure can be powered without any upgrades to the system. We subsequently followed up with some of our developers and discovered these are projects really that already are basically, you know, literally a week away from being powered or already provided service. And part of that is we asked for disclosure of the list of these 10 applicants, and PG&E cited privacy concerns regarding the publication of that list and distribution to the city. So we know that there are far more applicants in the queue, and so we're kind of curious as to what their definition of, you know, in process is at various stages, but some of them have been in for multiple years. And this will clearly have to be an ongoing conversation with PG&E to provide greater clarity to the overall situation, as it seems to be changing daily with information that were provided in one day and new information that's provided in the next. So PG&E also stated after these initial 2 to 4 applicants are powered, there will need to be substation upgrades. So the substation that powers Rio Dell is located at the end of Berkeley, over sort of in the Avenues neighborhood. This upgrade could take between 2 to 4 years, and then after that upgrade, an additional 2 to 4 customers could then be provided additional power. And I should clarify that they stated commercial customers. So in our communications with them, what they encourage the city to do is provide them as much information about potential developments in the city as we can. Because they cited a figure of $900 million and approximately between 7 to 10 years to implement beyond the substations, the overall grid enhancements that need to occur. But they don't currently have access to the 900 some odd million dollars to begin the project. So it's currently unfunded, meaning there is no current plan, there is no current action to correct this issue. What they encouraged us to do was provide them as much information about development potential in the city as possible, which Community Development Director Kevin Caldwell is working on. And but it raises this chicken or the egg scenario, which is they want developers stepping forward and saying we need certain, you know, electrical requirements. That requires the developer to spend money to come up with a reasonable estimate and a reasonable, you know, design for their specific project. And realistically, because the city needs to disclose this as part of our obligation, and certainly encourage the developers to get in contact with PG&E, it raises the question as to which developer would go ahead and spend $30,000, $100,000 on top of the purchase price for a property to develop plans that then get submitted to PG&E. And then they have to wait 7 to 10 years for the projects to be powered. So by default, it is not an explicit ban on new hookups and economic development in the city, but that's functionally what it is. It deters, and even today, with it coming out in the media and folks discussing it in our disclosures to potential developers, the damage is occurring right now. It's occurring today. It's not theoretical in the future. People are reading the paper. Developers are being advised, and certainly they're doing their due diligence to contact Pacific Gas and Electric, and they're coming up with alternative plans for their sites. That may not necessarily be the highest and best use of those parcels. So really, in this case, in order for economic development to occur in Rio Dell, we really do need the power to be supplied upfront in order for those developers to have confidence in making those investments and being able to start earning on those properties and on those developments as soon as possible. So this is a really major issue. It does not just impact the city of Rio Dell, although that is, we are focused in on Rio Dell. I don't have a whole lot of details on the situation in Fortuna or in southern Humboldt. We know it is a very tight situation in all three communities, and it's going to be a difficult situation. It's going to require continued communication with the group and work with Fortuna and with the county together to advocate for this region. But to me, there's still a lot of areas where perhaps PG&E is not looking at the nuance of some of these developments. So, for example, in cannabis, it is typical to see a indoor lighted operation operate at night when the power is cheaper. It's also cheaper to air condition and do all that stuff in the building to operate. And so I think Caltrans, or excuse me, PG&E is looking at it as a very kind of monolithic situation, and that's one of the items that the California Public Utilities Commission brought up, which is that there may be some opportunities in terms of energy storage. So shaving peak power at certain times of the day, and then allowing these businesses to operate at night means that there may be very little to no impact to the grid overall. And of course, it's our position, and that's something that we will be pushing, is if new developments, the only way for them to proceed is to incur an increase in the project costs by having energy storage, so Tesla batteries or whatnot. It's our position that really PG&E should be in the position to have to pay for it, because waiting 10 years is simply not reasonable. It's not an acceptable timeline. So we'll be pushing on that and multiple other issues. One of the other things, because this is, I think still a hot and developing issue, is there were issues with the Gerald Phelps Hospital receiving power. And as far as I had understood it, that the Garberville area was the most stressed portion of the grid. And yet today, earlier around noon, we're told that they found power for that facility. And perhaps the Supervisor Bushnell will have more details on that if she would like. So the story continues to shift and evolve, and maybe with some more analysis from PG&E, there will be a more favorable outcome. Of course, the opposite may also be true. So some of the impacts of this are related to the climate action plan, which really the thrust of that plan is focused in on electrifying homes, so getting rid of natural gas stoves, natural gas water heaters, going all electric. Additionally, state regs now are going from requiring 100 amp or 125 amp hookups for your standard residential home to 225. So essentially doubling the amp requirements for new developments. And that's because obviously the state is making a big push to address climate change. We know recently the legislature and the governor are pushing to have all new vehicles sold in California by 2035, to be all electric. So the question is how is Rio Dell going to be able to adapt to this over a 7 or 10 year timeline? I don't know that it's very realistic, but there are potentially energy storage solutions in the interim, and again, that really needs to not come at a developer cost or at a city cost. Other implications include housing. This is another one we received mixed signals on as to, you know, if the grid is completely tapped out. Is there power available for housing? That still remains to be seen. As the council is aware, one of our main economic development objectives is seeing development at our top property. And so, you know, housing or commercial developments on that site are going to require very large levels of electricity. Again, based on the PG&E timeline, the earliest those would be served is in 7 or 10 years if the funding is provided today. Other commercial developments, anybody interested in a gas station or any other cannabis or non-cannabis commercial development, potentially for the wastewater treatment plant. If we are forced to move to a UV disinfection system, that would double the power consumption of the wastewater treatment plant. And according to the information that PG&E has given us, they don't have that electrical capacity. So that creates other regulatory hurdles for the city to face in terms of meeting state water board requirements and other issues. And just the overall impact would be essentially stagnation. We would be tabling a lot of the economic development projects in the city unless they can be self-powered. So that's not a good thing because we want to be growing the community, we want to be growing the economic base. And the city has already seen 30 or 40 years of economic stagnation. And to compound that, I think, is potentially threatening the viability of the city, you know, over that 10-year period. The question is, would the city be able to emerge from that level of stagnation? And I think that's highly questionable. So again, we're going to be focused in on communication with PG&E. We have a meeting, and I want to thank Supervisor Michelle Bushnell, who's in the audience today, for setting this up. We will be meeting with Senator McGuire and the Pacific Gas and Electric CEO tomorrow, and along with our friends at the city of Fortuna and at the county planning and building. So we'll hopefully have some additional new information tomorrow. And then PG&E is planning on also giving a full presentation to the Board of Supervisors in November of this year. So it's unfortunately, this is not good news. You know, to put some positives to it, I think Rio Dell's done a very good job of getting the developments in that we have. And so this could be a whole lot worse in the sense that if we were trying to start these developments up today, we wouldn't have them. So we were able to kind of get some in through the door that provide jobs, that provide revenue into the city, that help pave the streets, and help fund the police department. So I don't think it's all negative. I think there is also some wiggle room to figure out how to be creative. But it's the onus on that, and the responsibility for that is ultimately needs to be Pacific Gas and Electric to see if there's a way to make these projects work so we can continue to grow the economic base, upgrade the substations, upgrade the distribution system. So with that, I will return to the mayor for any questions or comments from the council. I'll do my best to try to answer them, but I don't. On the technical side of it, electricity is complicated and distribution is extremely complicated. I certainly don't understand all of it.
Thank you for that presentation, and not to be even gloomier, but the 7 to 10 years, they literally said that, yeah, no, it could be longer because, well, they're not funded, so 7 to 10 years is like the best case scenario, and so it's really a unpleasant picture right now. I do appreciate the California Public Utilities Commission, you know, standing by us and standing with us and trying to push this forward, and I appreciate, Supervisor Bushnell getting, our senator involved, and so I was gonna ask you if you had anything you want to add, you know, update us on. Welcome. Thank you.
Well, I'm happy to answer any questions, as far as the hospital and them coming out today saying that they had power for the hospital. In Barberville, when I talked to them this afternoon, they said that they think they can divert some power from the Bridgeville substation. The two substation lines coming into this district are Bridgeville and from Laytonville. Those are the transmission lines that are in question. They, assured me that they think they can pull some power from there. They're gonna have to run another line, so it's a year process probably, not immediate, but they are gonna try to reserve that power for the hospital. Your mayor is correct. Their decision-making for whether they're gonna try to spend that money is 7 years to 10 years. And once they decide if they can have the money available, then it's a 3 to 4 year process to upgrade those transmission lines. I'm hopeful that getting Senator involved and the CUPC and that will come, you know, it's not an option, they have to fix it. The Fortuna has a little bit more power than you folks. Barberville has 0. The Southern Pass Rio Dell has about 0. Now, the cities have both told me, you know, they said commercial, but when we had our meeting with them 3 weeks ago, it was not just commercial, it was in general. They don't have 100 amps. 100 amps is not very much power. In the southern Humboldt area, they don't have 100 amps to hook someone up. So I'm just happy to answer any questions you have. And we will know more tomorrow, I believe. But it's very dire.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Mayor Hines. I don't know if you have the answer to this, Michelle, but by my memory, PG&E supplies energy to over half the landmass in California. I mean, there's some isolated stuff like Delaware County gets theirs from Oregon through PG&L. Reading gets theirs from Shasta Dam. There's been on and on, but my question is this isolated to the North Coast, or is this throughout the Great Valley of California, San Francisco, Sacramento? Do they have enough power? Are they gonna have enough power in 10 years?
So it is not isolated to the North Coast. However, it is isolated in small pockets throughout California. And I confirmed that with them yesterday, because that was my question also, like, it's just these two transmission lines. It is California-wide in pockets. And I think that it does have, you know, they're not giving up a lot of information. You know, obviously, we all, county and all the cities have been stagnant in getting hookups. And so everybody's been asking the question, what's going on? We know they knew 6 months ago, they didn't let us know. You know, whatever, we can't fix that now. I don't know if it is in the other towns, if it's certain transmission lines like here, or what the problem would be in those areas, but it is definitely not just this district. Now, Eureka, McKinleyville, they have more, but could easily get up to capacity, especially with McKinleyville Center coming, McKay subdivision, those types of areas. The McKay subdivision, by the time they start building that, it's going to be all generated by power. That new law is going to be kicked in. They're not going to be able to have, you know, use natural gas or propane. So they could easily get up to capacity quickly. Work is prime right now, it's tons of power. So there's not much development there, but you know, they didn't paint a pretty picture. I know Mayor Garnes has spoken with them also, along with Kyle, and their message is a little bit wishy-washy, back and forth. You know, there was an article that came out yesterday, and then they countered an article today. And that stuff frankly just makes me mad, because I don't want to hear that in the paper. And it's not fair to the communities that they are communicating that. You know, I'm happy to have power for the hospital if they're going to commit it and put it in the paper, I'll take it, but it's not a good message.
It seems to me also that just like our North Coast senator and assemblyman are on the warpath. That throughout the state of California and all these isolated areas that have a bleak future with PG&E, that their representatives would be on the warpath, being on the PUC's door saying, you know, we want solid answers. We want a plan that can work. You know, the people of California are due better results than they're getting. And that needs to be the message loud and clear too.
It does need to be the message. I know that, PG&E did not let higher ups than myself know. Well, I contacted Senator last week, you know, and that's not great either. So, you know, I don't know what the outcome will be tomorrow. I do know that we had scheduled to have them the last week in October present to our board. They asked us to push it out, well, they asked me to push it out 1 week so that they could come with options, better options and solutions. And I'm willing, you know, if they're gonna come with something besides we don't have power, then I'm willing to wait a week. But frankly, when you have investors spending hundreds to millions of dollars and will serve letters that they've taken money on and not serving people, they need to be, the message needs to be out there. It's not fair to those folks that have spent so much money trying to develop.
And also, I just want to thank you very much for the energy that you put into this, and you know, through the Board of Suits and contacting our local statewide representatives, you know, keep beating on the drum.
You're welcome anytime.
Councilman Wilson?
No, not a lot to say. This isn't just Humboldt County or California. This is a nationwide, and probably a worldwide issue. And the idea, and it's all nothing for me to say this, I'm just saying it. The idea that you're gonna electrify this world, this country, and this state, and you're gonna run everything with electric cars. There's part of the agenda Thursday for RCEA is to receive a grant for putting vehicles to grid. They gotta match it, but the point is when there's an emergency situation, you drive your car down to, like in Orleans is one of the target of the 10. You drive your car down to the fire hall and you plug your car in so you can power the fire station. So until this, just my rhetorical statement, until this world wakes up and decides to deal with the problem that's really here, this is what we get, and we get it. We're going to get it quicker because we're the little guy. The bigger political powers are going to get the benefits of being the bigger political powers. And so it's a sad situation. Stay informed, and I appreciate you and Rex. I know he's been pretty heavily involved with this, and thank you for your time.
You're welcome. I do want to mention, I know Kyle mentioned it, the climate action plan that the state of California has, which is a more aggressive than some other states. It will compound the issue, and it will compound the issue throughout California. Right now, it is my entire district, north and south, east and west, and then Petrolia for Rex. And right now, that's where the transmission lines are at capacity. And so, but with the climate action plan coming, it's going to compound it across the state of California. And they need to be action, what they told me was, I asked, you did not forecast growth, and expect that, and they said no, that they didn't, which I don't know business plan works that way. And you would expect growth, especially commercial economic growth. So I think we'll get more of the story, and I know Kyle will share with you all. But please reach out to me anytime, or Rex, if you guys have questions. And I hope that you will attend the meeting at the board when it comes. It'll be very important for them to hear your voices.
I just think there's more than what meets the eye for this whole thing. But I want to thank you for being involved in helping get things done. And we just need to stay informed and do whatever we can. I mean, I don't know if we can do anything.
I think collectively, the county and the cities need to join together. And that message needs to be strong and it needs to be collectively the same across the board. That's not acceptable in any way.
But I think, like you said, with the climate plan, it's gonna get worse. And with my opinion, I think that's what they're planning, but anyway, thank you.
Councilman Burt.
I was just gonna say exactly what you just said, that it's important for everybody to come together on this and to be a unified force, because we're not gonna get anything done as a bunch of small pieces. So, with that being said, just, I have lots of questions, but none of them are appropriate on the record. I'll save those for later, but, thank you to everybody who's been at work on this. I know this is depressing, just thank yous for everybody. That's it.
Thank you, Supervisor Woodville, for being here and for answering our questions. Are there any questions from the public? Any hands raised? Any emails? Thank you. Well, is there anything else you would like to say to the manager?
No, not at this time. I think the information that we have, we've conveyed to the council, and we'll certainly work to update the council.
Thank you, Supervisor, and this was a discussion. I don't think there's any action to be taken, so we will close this item. And now we'll move on to council reports and communications. Councilmember Carter.
I'm easy, because I don't really have any reports and communications. I'm gonna be at the Trail Summit on Saturday from, 9 noon-ish up at the Sequoia Conference Center in Eureka. So I'll be, anybody wants to come say hi, ask me some questions, but I'm happy to represent, one of the more uplifting things that's happening down here. It's tough to follow. Right? But yeah. So that is a positive thing, and I am happy to represent the city in a positive way, and hopefully get us some good attention.
Thank you.
And that's it. And nuisance meeting tomorrow at 3 p.m. here. Okay.
Councilman Wilson.
I just had like an RCA meeting, Thursday, like I said, one of the things on the thing was this thing about the grant. We'll see what they say there, but also we have a special meeting with HWMA and trials involved on the 29th, where they're going to do, they're going to address the 1383. They're going to listen to I forget what their name is, but there's this consultant company that we're helping to fund to tell us how you're going to put the bags in your green waste bin. I hope they've got more than that by now. That you're going to throw all your green waste in your these plastic bags in your green waste, and you're going to pile green waste on top of green waste, and then you're going to come down and pick it up in the truck, dump it in the dump truck, and on top of the other plastic bags, and then they're going to bring all those down to WMA, which they shut down a lot of recycling there and use that facility, and they're going to dump it all out there on the ground. They're going to somehow, under all of this green waste, they're going to find a way to get those plastic bags out of the full of your the chicken bones that you had in the organic food waste. And then they're going to separate that. And I guess it'll be interesting what this consultant firm tells us. I'm really looking forward to that.
It's on Thursday.
It's on a Thursday.
Okay.
I want to suggest them.
Have you ever seen how you dump stuff in your greenway park and you go? Unless they rework the thing, which, what's her name, Linda Wise from Ecology, they talked about with the universal pickup, you actually had a two-stage bin that you're gonna dump it, you're gonna dump that waste in one side of the bin, and the other side of the bin was gonna be the green, which actually makes more sense. But you need these trucks that you can't get for 2+ years to haul to deal with that. So look forward to that.
And that's what
Thank you, everyone. I'd like to report that tomorrow I'll be sitting in as a regular instead of an alternate at the local LAPCO meeting, and just a kind of an update on who LAPCO is. LAPCO is 7 members comprised of 1 and 2 from the county, 2 from cities, and 2 from special districts. And those 6 people choose a representative from the community to serve as the 7th member of the panel. For each of these groups, there is 1 alternate. I'm the alternate for the cities group. For the last couple of months, there has been a vacancy in the public section. Skip Jorgensen, who has been an alternate there for a decade or so, due to health reasons, is stepping down. And anybody out there in the audience that wants to do something that's really for the good of the whole community, LAPCO's a great place to get started. It's a wonderful organization. It decides things like city boundaries, formation of special districts, and on and on. And this is just a plug. If you are interested, look up the LAPCO website and contact the executive director and put your name in. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Councilmember Woodall? Well, if they don't fill the spot and you're off the council. There's a place.
There's an option, and I consider.
Then you may. No, just that I have, there's a special lady Humboldt Transit Authority meeting tomorrow. And that's about all I have except Nick, hi, it's been a long time. That's it.
Thank you. And I don't think I have anything to report out. I was at the PG&E meeting, but it's been reported out, so. So I think, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Have a motion, is there a second? Second. Being adjourned until October 6th. 4th, October 4th. Thank you.